It's not a normal world, it's Taskmaster World, and welcome to a very special video. Now, if you are not new to the Tom Mason Empire, the TGM production gathering of things, you will know I interviewed Alex Horn over on the Weird Side. And so Alex Horn, the creator of Taskmaster, then gave me the idea to create this channel. And if it wasn't for Alex, I wouldn't be here right now. Now, I'm talking to someone who's best known, funnily enough, for being the Taskmaster on the Swedish version, Bäst i Test. If I say that right, it's the one, the only Babben Larsson.
Hello.
Now, you are also a comedian, and so which is always good for any version of Taskmaster to get a comedian on board. Had you before 2017, had you seen the original British version of the show?
No, I hadn't actually. When we were going to make it in Sweden, I was sent links to like 3 shows, and I watched them, and I laughed out loud. And my first thought was, I want to work with this show. This is really funny. It's spontaneous. It's hilarious, and it's really hard to predict what's going to happen the next moment, and that's what I really love about it.
Yeah, and with you had ended up watching some episodes. Was it hard to try and not replicate what Greg did in the original? Was it easier just to be your own Taskmaster and not do anything that Greg had done?
Well, of course, I watched how he had formed the role of the Taskmaster, but still, we were a bit nastier the first season, actually. I was a bit harder on my David, my Alex. But then we realized that we got hordes of children watching the show. They love the show. And we realized that we cannot really, be too hard on him because they love David, and he's like a cartoon character cut out of, so it will be too harsh. So I've tried to make it a little bit more polished and not so. And we also, I think, we're on primetime TV on the largest channel, and for years, Taskmaster went on Dave, and I think on another broadcasting time as well. It aired later in the evening, so they could be, a bit tougher than we can. We got all these children watching, and we have to take responsibility for this. We cannot bully David on best primetime TV. It's not okay, So I still keep him under me, and it's really funny because David takes a lot of space out doing the tasks with the contestants, but as soon as he enters the studio, he goes down in status because I push him down a bit. And when he tries to climb, I just gently, no, not yet.
And with the UK version, what David worked out was because of, as you were saying, that children were watching it. I would say more of like 15-year-olds in when I was in the UK version would watch it. And so Dave, then Channel 4, once it moved, had something called the PG version or the bleeped version or the censored version, because it changed names all the time. Then that had it where it could air after the watershed, but if you wanted to air in the middle of the day, it could air with beeps over the swear words, but use typewriter sounds to do it. And one of the things that I've always wanted to know from any Taskmaster, because the intro is always the same, what was it like filming that? Was it interesting? Because it's like typewriters had gone out and published conscious. I've got a typewriter to the side of my electric one, but they had gone out of consciousness, and not everyone was familiar with a typewriter. Did you enjoy filming the intro?
I enjoyed that a lot because I used to have an old Halda typewriter, and with a Courier, font that you still can find on a computer that looks like the old writing from a manual typewriter. And I enjoyed really much, again, to be able to, and you had to like relearn how do I, send this bar from left to right and everything. But in the end, it all came back to me, and they all work the same. And I like the sound a lot. And it's something really hands-on to be typing on a real typewriter.
Yeah, and I love the intro, and it's because the music isn't copyrighted, because Alex is one of those people that want everyone to do something with it. And the horn section, which I recently found out watching, I think must have been watching the New Zealand version, and found out it was the horn section. Then every version I watch, it's still the horn section, which is good for Alex, as Alex then still gets a little bit of money out of it. Because broadcasters obviously will pay the artists, not the fans, and it's an easy sort of intro to make, and it's really fun. But what I quite like about the Swedish Taskmaster as a whole is how it's unique, and is how it has some of the original tasks, but it's got a new perspective on it. And a lot of people in places say, oh, they've done that, it's not original, but it still is original, because it's people's minds work in different ways. And have you noticed that, how throughout you doing the show and throughout seeing bits and bobs from the UK version, you've seen how the tasks you've done have always been a different way of people doing the tasks itself?
It's true, because every contestant's mind works in different ways, and some of them are really coping well with stress, and they can solve hard tasks, but still be able to work under pressure. Others, they just get they disappear from all thinking, and start to do really silly things. And also when they see themselves in the studio, they, oh my God, how could I do that? And so I think that's the beauty of it. And hopefully not too many of our contestants watch the old task. But I think also now we have more tasks in every show than you have in Britain. So I think by now we don't use that much material from England anymore. Because we used it up, the ones that we thought would suit our show.
And that it's because you have got more tasks than the UK version. But well, later on, one of the I think in episode 1, which we'll get onto in a few moments, but one of the tasks that we'll get onto has one of the best solutions I think I've ever seen, because I think because I've seen a lot of versions of it now, I see how the house is a lot different. So in different versions, the house is bigger, so you've got more grass space to do more stuff. Because the UK house is anyone can actually see, because it's on a main road, so the garden's not as big. But then in the Swedish version and the New Zealand version, the house is bigger, so the garden's a lot bigger, so you've got enough room to do it. But moving away from Taskmaster a little bit quite quickly, because I interviewed a QI elf called Alex Bell, and he told me there was a Swedish version of QI, and now I YouTubed it the moment when I was editing the interview, and found out you were actually on the episode of QI. What was it like being on that, and had you seen the UK original?
I like that a lot. We did 4 seasons, so we came to the letter D. And in my opinion, I think that if we could have continued with the show, we would have reached a higher level of it, and get more contestants there, or panel members that were more into the format, and it would have grown. But we never got the chance. I don't know why they canceled it after 4 seasons, but I enjoyed it a lot. And it's the same as if you participate in Taskmaster, that you show up and then something happens and you have to react to that. So the only thing you can do is to be sober and try to be in time, and then you roll from there. And I like that kind of show, and that's what attracted me really to Taskmaster when I saw it, was that everything is a first take. They only do the task once, and come rain, come shine, and then they see their failure or their success together with the others, and they can celebrate, and then maybe they get disqualified because they did some cheating. So it's many turns, and everything is also so spontaneous. So to have participants that don't have any script, I think that's a genius move, actually, because when you've been working with humor and comedy for so many years that I started in the middle of the 80s, you can by far see a gag coming,
Yeah.
But here you have individual minds working in mysterious ways, and you never know what's going to happen. And that is one of the keys to the success, I think, of Taskmaster, that you do the casting well, and then you just let these geniuses, work with whatever, potatoes or watermelons and eggs.
Yeah.
We had a lot of eggs the last season.
And when I was this week, it was this week, because I'm on I'm not modern. I feel like I'm in my 80s because I am not modern whatsoever. So I never understand what's going on in the modern world. But there's something called Reddit, which is like a thing, and they have a Taskmaster Reddit, which is a hub of activity of everyone talking about every single version of Taskmaster ever. And they'd put on an article Alex had written about series 12, and it turns out he didn't go into too much detail because he didn't want to spoil the series, but it turns out he's the first time ever used a task from the Swedish version of the show. And I, reading that, thought it's a perfect time to ask, what's your thoughts on that? We don't know what task it is just yet, but what's your thoughts on it?
Well, that's really very flattering for our people that's working out the new task, isn't it? That the original version pick up things from us. That's really flattering.
Yeah, and
that makes me happy. So I'm a bit curious which task it is, but I guess we'll know.
Yeah.
We borrow from each other. I mean, we also watch, from other countries, especially the guys working behind. They watch a lot of the show. I'm not that involved because I'm the Taskmaster, so I stay in the line and do some script work. But they watch a lot and they pick up. And sometimes I also come up with some ideas for tasks. I had one of the finales last year, I think, when you were about to stamp on a color. What do you say? When you have a color for artists, you have them in tinned tubes, right? Tubes. So you had to stamp on them, and the one that managed to get the color most far away won, and it went really. It was a fun moment.
And I quite it's Taskmaster is one of those programs that, apart from America and Spain and Belgium, it works really well universally. A lot of game shows that translate around the world just work really well because all they're doing and all you're doing is taking that format and changing. Because what's really interesting about it is that Greg isn't as involved as Alex in the show, and it's more interesting because you get to see your first reaction of what's going on. And then it's like David's already been there. And what I love about this version, and that has duplicated other versions, is how you have the desk. With the UK version, it's just two thrones, and Alex is called Little Alex on is just as a joke. But you clearly know that you're higher than David is, because you're more important than David, and David doesn't look bothered about it. He's got a neutral face, but he might be crying on the inside. Who knows?
I love the way they did with the desks, that I have this huge normal desk and he's got this children's desk with everything duplicated, but in a smaller version, a smaller lamp, a smaller typewriter, everything is smaller. And it's so low that he can't really stretch his legs out under it. So it's really uncomfortable. And they also took a saw and cut the legs of the chair. So he's really more or less sitting on the floor, trying to have some dignity left, and it's really, really funny.
Yeah, and a lot of people always, when they see a version, think what's so they have Alex as the basis, and then they go, oh, how is this version of Alex, and how did he? And I think out of all the versions I've seen, which is, well, I've seen them all, whether or not I understand them all is a different thing altogether. But I've seen them all. Some of them I've ended up understanding, like the Swedish version. I found subtitles in the end, which was very lucky. And you see how they're all different. But I think the best assistant, which is like based off Alex, is definitely Paul Williams from the New Zealand version and David from the Swedish version. Because David, when you see him in a task, has got a neutral face in him, and he looks like he's there to do his job and not there to have fun, which is just incredible, because he just lets them go off instead of wanting to have his own little bit of he just goes on, and it's really interesting to see. And with the version, was it fun to work on from your point of view, because you're not as involved? Did you still get the enjoyment working in the studio?
Of course. I mean, we knew we had good material from the field. We knew we had all these tasks, and we also had a really, really skilled editor that made all the material, so polished and good when it came on. And I think David's performance is brilliant. It's very close to how he also do his comedy. He is a straight face, and he likes to play with words and things like that. But he has this formal role, and working we didn't know each other before. We knew of each other, but we'd never worked together. But the channel SVT put us together because they thought it was a good match, and it was. So today we're like an old married couple, and we work together really well. We're very comfortable. We also led a gala together a couple of years ago. The big like the Emmy, but in Sweden. And when we were going in, and I looked at David and said, "Are you nervous?" I said, "No." "Are you?" "No," because we're so comfortable together, and we know we'll always land on our feet when we work together, because we enjoy to. We know the other one will do, whatever is necessary to make it work, and I really enjoy the studio. Also to watch the faces of the contestants when they see all the edited material, and they realize, oh, I'm a genius, or I'm a failure. I'm a total failure. I just excuse myself and never be on air again. They're really dramatic. So that's really, really extremely funny to watch them while they're watching themselves for the first time.
Yeah, and I quite like it in series 1, episode 1, which we'll get onto in a few seconds. I quite like how in one of the tasks the camera decided to pan away onto you, and you were laughing, and it's really nice to see how the taskmasters themselves also, because Greg Larsson, you can hear him from a mile away, but you're trying to be just quiet about it. But it's just really good. And what I quite like about the show it's generally is that it's on a main channel, and I think SVT, in my opinion, is one of the most popular channels outside of Sweden, because a lot of shows are popular because of SVT, like The Bridge. That's also popular, and I think that Bäst Test needs to have a channel, a BBC4 show, and because BBC4 are good at doing massive subtitles and are very good at having airing them fairly. And I think that more UK people, not just hardcore Taskmaster fans like myself, need to see this version, because it shows how a format does work, because a lot of remakes and programs don't always work around the world, but this really does, and it hits the mark, and it is just incredible. And I think watching it just makes me feel like I'm just enjoying myself, and it's never disappointing. Some contestants might do a task really rubbishly, but
Yeah.
it's still enjoyment to watch them do badly at the tasks.
It's fun when they do it well, and it's fun when they are failures. It's always fun to watch also their reactions and how they handle to be very very good or very bad in the show. Not all winners are humble, and
Yeah.
not all losers are happy. So it's also fun to see how they handle the whole situation.
Now the program started in 2017, which is I think maybe 5 years ago now.
Yeah, we're on now to the 6th season. Yes,
Yeah.
and the first season were only four programs because episodes, because SVT wanted to do
Test.
like a test balloon
Yeah.
to see is this flying or not.
Yeah.
And already the second and third day we were doing the studio part, the executives started to appear on the set, and that's most of the time a good sign.
Yeah.
They've heard that this might go well, so
Yeah.
they wanted to be a part of it. That was really fun to watch.
Yeah.
The people you never see
Yeah.
outside the office, they just showed up on set.
Yeah. Now we'll get on to see episode 1 now. And if for the viewers at home watching this, what I will be doing is, because the version isn't called Taskmaster Sweden like you would assume, it's called Bäst Test, which I think is a very good title, but when you try and Google it, you have to get it correctly, because Google thinks you're on about someone called Bäst and his best friend Ian Test. And I really, and one last thing that I will mention is I quite like how David brought out a book similar to what Alex did with having your own tasks you can do at home. And I quite like that. I do wish that David's book was available internationally, because it would be really, really fun to have in a Taskmaster collection. But if I ever get to interview David, I'll pester him and make it available internationally.
Yeah.
He publishes it. Now, who was your favorite contestant from series 4, episode 1? If you remember.
Yeah, I remember that. Well, they all have different qualities, because like Bianca was very competitive, and the Kodjo was very he's a strong and macho, comedian, but he also fell in tears when he was trying to understand Icelandic. And Klaus Malmberg is an old friend of mine. He started out doing comedy amongst the first in Sweden when he was 16. So maybe he's one of my favorites, but he was kind of phlegmatic on the show. He didn't bother too much, but that was also a quality that worked well with the other ones that tried to, that worked hard. But then all of a sudden he did something really good, really well. So, I like them all. I must say, I like them all. Pia is also a friend of mine, and we do Just a Minute together on radio as well. And she's also very, she goes into things with all her energy and lovely energy around her. So it's hard to pick a favorite. And I think Keo was the guest, right?
Yeah.
Keo Petrushina. She's a young influencer comedian that's done a rocket career here in Sweden, and she's lovely to watch, and sometimes she's really, really clever when it comes to solution, and sometimes she's really just hopeless. So you never know what you're gonna get. She's also done a whole season, and then she came back a third time to have the revenge, and she didn't. Well, she did a little bit better then, but she's been giving us a lot of laughs.
Yeah. Now, when you were saying that, I did think about it. I don't think it was her, and it might be my bad bad spelling when I've written it down. I don't think it was sir, because it was a bloke. It was a man. It was a man. I might. It was. I'll tell you how you spell
It
his
might be
name.
Kalle Zackari.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Kalle Zackari. He's like a reality show star here, and he's done a lot of his own series where he's like a physician teacher in school, and now him and his wife bought this farm, and they've done a reality show about that. So he's a regular on TV in his own format. So and he did really well. I think he won the whole episode actually.
Well, if you stay around towards the end of the podcast, you'll find out. I won't confirm or deny that. But just before we get in, you mentioned there that there was a Swedish version of Just a Minute. Now, I did not know that until you mentioned that, and that sounded incredible because Just a Minute is a fantastic Radio 4 show in the UK, and many people have been on it. There's been TV version. I had no clue there was a Swedish version. I've got to find.
It's been on for ages. I think it's like 50, 60 years or something.
Wow.
So it's been running years and years, and I've been on the show on and off from the 90s and to today. I'm going to make a new episode on Monday, actually, together with Pia. Yes.
Wow. I learn something new every day.
Of course.
Yeah.
We all do.
Yeah, because I'm supposed to be the fountain of knowledge, but I don't know every single thing about I know more about TV than any other medium. But we'll get into the prize task, or as you like to call it, the prize pool, which is a better word for it because it's more, because with every other version it's behind. You don't really see where they're more hidden, but it is a circle and a pool. When you normally think paddling pools are more of a circle, so quite like that. And it's in this episode, you never have it just a one task. Like the prize task isn't just at the very beginning, it's all through the episode because different things get added, and which I think is really good because then they can win more, and they might wanted some of the things. But we'll start. So the prize task was to bring in the most unusual item. And so well, I'll tell you what the items were. So we had a kettlebell, which was £203. We had adult teeth, which a little bit disgusting to me, but I didn't decide to bring it in. We had a yarn divider,
yes,
a handmade mirror to either humour you or just for laughs, and we had a toenail from a TV presenter. Now, what's a yarn divider? I wasn't sure what a yarn divider was.
I think it might be something you use when you do like plaited reins, or how should I explain it? Sometimes you can plait the yarn so you can make like a now my English is a bit off here. Do you call it bracelet when you have it around it? Yeah. So you can plait things, maybe that's a divider too, so they don't tangle too much and get mashed, and so it sorts out so you can plait in a good pace. I never seen one before actually, and it was really unusual.
Yeah, it's the first thing I thought when it unusual. I wasn't thinking, oh, I'll bring in a yarn divider, and it's what Taskmaster does best. It brings in something you weren't thinking about and you might have never heard of, and that's the thing with a lot of international versions. A lot of things don't always translate the best or international because not everything. So like I had never heard of a yarn divider, but we might have one in the UK. I just don't use yarn enough.
No, so many of us don't.
no, it's an item that needs to be used more. But I'm probably gonna say his name wrong, but Klaus. Yeah, he brought in the toenail from the presenter last.
That's a Kroner, yes.
Yeah, What's she famous for? What would she be most recognized for? Because I never heard of her.
Lasse Kronér, he is a he. He's been mostly he's been a show host for many years on Swedish television, and mostly in his own formats. So he's been doing this Doobie-Doo show for many years, where you have like two teams with two artists, singers, comedians in each that compete over remembering old hits, trying to figure out who wrote this song. And it's very cleverly made, and he's very he's got a broad audience. Many people like him a lot. So it was a bit shocking actually to have this toenail presented.
Yeah.
It was really disgusting.
Yeah.
And also really hard to prove that it originally came from Lasse Kronér.
Well, could you not have done a DNA test, or would that took too long?
Well, he just brought it in for the show, so there was a shortage of time to do the DNA test.
Yeah.
Maybe I could have called Lasse Kronér and just to double check, is Claes Malmberg really possessing one of your old toenails? But sometimes you shouldn't check a good story, so we didn't. Yeah.
And I just think I think toenails are disgusting. So it's unusual, and it's something that I don't think the winner may have kept, but we don't know. Did the winner end up keeping the item?
Probably not. I know I wouldn't.
No, it'd be moldy by now. It'd be sat somewhere moldy.
Well, it depends on how much quality there is in this special toenail. Yeah. We don't know.
I never expected this chat to end up talking about if toenails can last so long.
Neither did I. But you have to, you have to consider things. You have to,
yeah. Now, Bianca, which I'm probably saying correctly because. Yeah. It's I think it's a universal name. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know many people called Bianca, but she brought in her own adult tooth. Was it fresh tooth? Did she just pull it out? Because I don't think adult teeth just fall out willy-nilly.
Hard to say. I mean, teeth, they don't really get old, do they? They keep their polish if you're having them in like the right environment. But if I remember right, there was still a little bit of brownish old dry blood on it, and it was not that super fresh. I don't know why this task turned out to be so, disgusting, but it did.
You have to bring in your audience somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, some like there's a program called Dr. Pimple Popper.
God! Don't even mention Dr. Pimple Popper.
I don't like it. It's horrible. But
it's horrible. I can't even imagine any of my friends watch that show without puking. It's so
disgusting.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's awful, and it's because somehow people watch it because it's still knocking about, and people like discussing things. You must have gained a lot more viewers if someone had rang them up and said, "There's a toenail on screen. Quickly, turn the TV on. We want to see that toenail." It probably didn't happen like that. I don't think
it happened that way.
No. They probably watched it afterwards and thought, hopefully there's more toenails. And I think the item that wasn't unusual was bringing the kettlebell, because that's not unusual. It's a lot of people have got one knocking about.
It's true, and they might be into Switzerland and bought one as a souvenir, or it's kept in the family because the family used to be farmers and things like that. So it's true. That's not that uncommon, is it? No.
My dad's got one in his it's in our garage. And it's like they're really useful, not just for exercise. You can use them as like a doorstop because they're very heavy, or you can use it.
Yeah.
Or you can get the small one and use it as a paperweight.
And you can also, it's dinner, you can use them for for different things.
And so and we also forgot to mention the Handmade Mirror. Was it good quality? Was it a good quality mirror from looking at it? Because it was in the studio. Did it look good quality? Because not everything handmade is good quality.
I can't remember so sharply, but I think no. It was like maybe done in school and not a really good quality. No,
Yeah.
it was a bit, torn and maybe not exactly like a square and things like that. So what I remember of it was not the word quality is not popping up actually.
Yeah, but what I quite, before we get on to talking about the points, what I quite like about the way you show the prize task is something that needs to be adapted, because I liked how you got to see the item in its full glory. So it's spinning around in one of those little plates that every time I see them,
Velvet pillow or something.
yeah, and I quite like how you do that with the UK version and the New Zealand version. All you do is mention the item and show it on the screen, and if it needs to be in the assistant's hand, it's in the assistant's hand, or sometimes they play it on the screen. And I prefer seeing it in its whole glory. Then that if it's like, for instance, a Handmade Mirror, you can see it in more detail, and it gives the viewers more of an idea of what the item actually looks like, not from one single side of an image.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. It's really on display.
Yeah. And so going down now to the points. The Keg Bell got 1 point. Bianca with her own tooth won 4 points. Pierre with the yarn divider won 2 points. The mirror won 5, and the toenail won 3. Now, would you still agree with your judgment, or would you change it if you had the option to?
I think I'll stand my ground, and I think the toenail could have had more points if it got the real provenance. That you had like a proof letter attached where Lasse Kronér indeed told everyone that this is my toenail, and it was retrieved at this and that opportunity. I cut it off in this hotel room, this date, blah blah. But there was no evidence whatsoever of this Lasse Kronér from the beginning. It could easily have been Claes' own, so that's why he didn't get the full point.
Yeah. Now we move on to task 1. Now this task has got to be one of my favorite tasks in any first series, because it's a really good task. Now, funnily enough, I wrote a lot of notes, and I wrote every time they mentioned a number, I wrote down that number. This is very unusual for me, writing this much detail, but this is so in detail. You'll feel like you're in the show again. So the task was to pop the bubble wrap. Bubbles most wins, or popped most wins. I must have written that down. My bad. Wins. They have 5 minutes to plan and then 100 seconds to pop. Now, bubble wrap is always funny. It's used in any form of comedy. There's a YouTuber in the UK called Joe Sugg. He did a whole skit where he's called Bubble Wrap Boy. So he just walked around with bubble wrap attached to him. So bubble wrap's comedy in any sense, and in this version, in this task, it works very well because when you watch it, you always think, how are you going to do it? But bubble wrap there's so many different techniques to pop bubble wraps efficiently, but I think it did very well. So we begin with Klaus.
Klaus,
sorry for my bad pronunciation.
No worries.
So so from the notes I got from watching it, because I tried to write down as much as I possibly could, that he tried it without his idea of popping them. Now, what would you, from watching them, what would you have done with it? How would you popped the bubbles most efficiently?
I would probably have tried to find a very sharp knife or something, and maybe rolled it over, made it to a roll, and then cut through and tried to do layer after layer and row after row. That would probably have been my approach. But nobody did that.
No, that would have. I can imagine that now, and that would have just been really, really sensible, because I don't think anyone took a sensible approach to it. As we get down to what towards the end, one of the people took a very odd approach that never happens in any version I've seen, but we'll get on to that. But what he did was he ended up he somehow managed it, and he ended up cheating by kneeling on the bubble wrap before he was ready. I think, if I'm rightly saying, because when you watch it, you don't always see, but I felt like he fell over onto it, but I might be wrong.
He maybe did that. He stumbled and fell over. But I mean, if you're standing on your knees on bubble wrap, it doesn't happen a lot because the pressure is too even on all the bubbles. So you have to have like a sharper, like the heel of a shoe or something that you really pop the bubbles with. So he tried to. That was class, right? He was like walking on his knees around, and then he realized this is not a good way to do it. And I think Pia was tap dancing.
Yes, I wrote that. I wrote down that she started singing a musical, because she in English she thought I might not do this Swedish, but she thought I'll do a musical number.
Yeah, she did.
Which is just pure hilarious, because funnily enough, the same week, I think it was like the very next day on Wednesday, when I watched Taskmaster New Zealand, Paul Williams decided to tap dance and sing, which was rather funny, because the day before I had watched Pierre tap dance, well, technically tap dancing, but she was popping bubble wrap without tap dancing shoes. So I thought that was just like incoincidental, because it's like years apart, but it did make me laugh, because I'm thinking, that's quite funny, that. And I think she did it very well, because she thought not just to put the bubble wrap, she's going to entertain David while she's at it and start singing. What are you into musicals?
Yes, I am. I'm singing jazz. I have my own quintet, and I also do big band music. I've been in some musicals. The musical Cabaret, I've been in twice, actually.
Wow.
Doing two different. I did the MC in one verse, and I did Fräulein Schneider in another one, and I enjoy singing a lot. So I'm into singing. Yes.
So did you appreciate her vocal range? I know we're going into too much detail, but in her vocal range, did you appreciate the way she was singing the song?
Maybe not that much. But always with this frenzy, right? This 100% energy into everything. So there was nothing wrong with that. So.
And then, close. Oh, I pronounced that.
Close, yes.
Yeah, he popped 669, or 6.6 bubbles per second, as David went into so much detail. Which, without anyone else, because no one else had gone up just yet, that was really good, and I quite liked how David decided that number seemed a little bit too big for me. I might go really 6.6 bubbles per second is something that should be used in every time you see a bubble. Is every time you see bubbles finding the alcohol. Oh, look, there's 6. And then there's another 6. Oh, now the 9 is 6.6 bubbles per second. It is just incredible, and it's a system that needs to be used universally.
It's always funny to have figures that don't matter at all.
Yeah.
It's always funny. Results that's average that you can't use.
Yeah. So then we had the first ever time, because it is the first episode. We had 3 of them going at once, which was Bianca, Pierre, and Kanji.
Kojo.
Yeah, Kojo.
Yeah.
I said that correctly that time.
Yeah.
Kojo. So they went. Them 3 went at once. So they all started. I think when it came to them 3, I think they must have, because when you watch it, they edit it in bizarre ways. So I think they must have just like not bothered showing them planning it and just cracked, because they all went straight into it. And it seemed like they hadn't planned it, but when you end up talking to them, it seemed like they had planned it in a way, but it was like for time constraints, you don't want the episode going too long. So you have to cut corners, but you can sort of see it. So they all started popping them from the moment, and we already mentioned that Pierre, she decided to sing a musical song, which we already mentioned. But then what's interesting about these 3 is that they all seemed to end up using either their feet or their whole body.
Yeah.
Now, do you know how much bubble wrap was used in this task? Do you know?
If I remember right, I think it was 5 meters.
Yeah, because it's like, bubble wrap's one of those things that you never see in a big clump. You always see just scattered around in like different like corners or wrapped in stuff. And so it was a unique seeing bubble wrapped so neatly and with a little bow on top to make it all nice.
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah. Now, what did you think of Bianca's efforts in this task?
What I remember of it was lots of energy, really 200% trying to kill all these bubbles. And if I remember right, she used her feet as well, didn't she?
Yeah, she was one of the ones that used her feet. And she did very well. And I think she's got to be the one contestant that they have in every version that's really excited, really young, and really wants to do the best, and knows it's a comedy show, so has to throw in some comedy involved somewhere, but just wants to win. And I quite like that ambition she's got, because she's so excited the way she says things, the way other people are sometimes or laughing as loudly as possible, which we'll get onto later on, because that was when they came to talk to the Icelandic person. One of them, which we'll get onto later, decided just to sit there and laugh relentless. But we'll get on to that. But so Bianca ended up popping 1,289 bubbles. Pierre did 1,929 bubbles, and Kinjun, if I'm saying that correctly, Kojo did 2,460 bubbles, which was very, very good. And now we got on to the guest contestant, which we'll call him because he's not in the whole series, he's in this episode. And so that's why later on in the episode he wasn't involved in the film location team task. He decided to do the best thing ever, just set it all on fire, just get a light a few minutes and go. And I think it's incredible because there's enough ground for you just to sit there and decide go. And were you expecting fires to be involved in this task when you were watching everyone else do it?
No, we were not. But when you saw him do it, he asked one question: "Can I take this bubble wrap outside?" And David, of course, said, "Yeah, you can move it." And he brought it out, he went to the shed, he picked up this rag and some stick, and then he had like some flammable fluid on, set it on fire, and then put it to the bubble wrap, and 1.5 seconds later it was gone and all the bubbles
Yeah.
were popped. And I agree with you. I think that's one of the most brilliant things I've seen on Taskmaster. Very good thinking and very well executed as well.
Yeah, and it's like, for me, because I'm not the best knowledge person on how flammable materials are, I didn't think bubble wrap would be that flammable. Did you think, how well did you know that bubble wrap would go in the flame that quickly?
Well, I know that plastic just melts. It melts down, right, when you present it to heat. But I wasn't expecting that it more or less would explode and just disappear. And there was only some black nasty things left on the ground after, but absolutely no bubbles.
Yeah, so he was the first contestant and the only contestant to burst every single bubble on the bubble wrap, and I quite liked how David had saved it, and I quite like, it's what I quite like about this version. It's more elegant, so he decided to plate it on a platter with a lid over it, just to go voila, and then show that the bubble wrap's there and put it in the prize pool. And that's something that the Swedish version does really well. Does it? It's elegant. It's comedy, but elegant. It wants to show them we're an elegant program whilst having people do silly things like set bubble wrap on fire.
Yeah, he's trying to elevate things that not really meant to be elevated. That's a nice form of comedy. Yeah, now thank you for pointing that out. That's a good point. Yes.
Yeah, and so the only bit that never made sense with the first task was that you didn't end up giving points for that task. You ended up just like moving on to chatting to the guest and then doing would you know? How come you didn't end up giving points for that task?
I'm pretty sure we did that in the studio, but it was obvious who got the 5 points, and because there were exact results, so it was not really needed in the final editing. So I think for time reasons somebody cut it out, and we knew that he got the 5 points. There was no doubt about it. So sometimes we do like that when we want more content from the tasks, and we don't focus that much on result until in the middle of the show, and when we're coming towards the end, we try to catch up. So how is the balance now? In the point, but I think that was one of these episodes where we were short of time, and then we cut things like that because when they are obvious, and not something that I sort of decide. This, when you can count bubbles, you don't have to be that exact.
And that's because this one's got more tasks than the other version. Taskmaster New Zealand's had only done it once, where they had an extra task just because that task was a quick one. But we went on to a new segment, which was a new segment because it was the first ever show, and because you couldn't call it another task because it was a segment called Would You Know, which is really funny because it had a jingle to it. And I quite like the jingle because it was very catchy, and it would be even more. It was just catchy, full stop. Now the task was to guess what was in David's pocket. You got 15 seconds to feel his pocket to have a feel and guess what it is, and you had 3 yes or no questions, and you may not reach down into or rip out the pocket after that. You'll write down and guess, and your time begins when David tells you. Now, did you expect this to happen? Were you preempt this was going to happen, or was it sprung on you?
No, I knew about this assignment, but what I remember is that people were like touching him in almost an appropriate way, that they went really intimate with him, and he almost had to try to back out of all the touching and squeezing, but I knew that we were going to do the task. Yes, I know all these things in advance, of course, because we watched and we planned and we written the script that we have together and things like that. But you never know how people will react and execute the tasks in the studio. That's also a bit exciting for us, But I can't remember what he had in his pocket. Do you remember?
Well, I funnily enough, I wrote it down. I did write it down because it's one of them. But we won't. I wrote down what two of them had thought it was, because the others were, I think, because I was reading the subtitles to make sure I'd written down exactly. A lot of it was like words that it was said a little bit fast, because subtitles because sometimes have to match what the way it is. And so I got Pierre with the egg slicer and Close with the timekeeper. And it was an egg opener. Now, I'm not 100% sure what an egg opener is, because I didn't think there was a such tool to. What is an egg opener that opens the egg to make sure you don't break the shell?
I can't remember what kind of egg opener it was, but you have this one that when you attach it to the egg, and then you push a button, and then a very sharp edge will go through the shell. And if you do that on top and bottom, then you can blow out, what's inside.
Yeah.
And then use it for decoration, and paint on it. Maybe it was one of these. Because an egg slicer, that's something quite different, isn't it? Then you have to peel the egg and then you put it through the slicer. So if it's an egg opener, my guess is that it was one of these that makes a hole in it, in the shell, when it's still raw.
Wow, I just did, because the only thing I knew what eggs, I only know, I don't even know how to cook eggs, to be fair, but I didn't even think there's gadgets for anything these days, but I didn't even know there was gadgets for eggs, so I was more like egg opener, and it more shocked me in less of a oh, it's something Swedish, more of a there is devices for everything, and it's something new, and you could probably buy egg openers anywhere, because you always need to open an egg at some point in your life, and you might need a sharp contraption to.
Well, you have sometimes you have like local devices, like in Sweden we have this cheese slicer, for example, that's hard to come over when you're in Britain. People don't know what it is, but because you cut it with a knife or buy it sliced, but we have like this device to make the slices. Sliced. I mean, sorry, my English is not good now.
Well, that's all right, because
it's been a while.
I'm not very good at English either. You should. I'm not very good at English. Even if I'm writing in English, I'm not very good at spelling. That's the downside, and that's what I find hilarious. I live in England, and I'm not even very good at speaking the language itself.
I think you're doing all right.
So the points for that was 3 points to Pierre, 3 points Pierre, 2 points to Kojo, that's it, right? Yeah. I keep forgetting. Got 2 points, and then the other 3 all got 1 point, which was fair enough, because it was very generous, not just to give him the jugular and give him no points. And then we went on to task 2. Now, task 2 is one of those tasks that I always think is a nightmare for me to write notes on, because it's very hard to write what's going on, because a lot of it's just a conversation, and so it'll just take me forever to write quote after quote after quote. And so what he had to do now is similar to the UK task, where you have to speak to a Swedish person, but the Swedish person can only speak the language but can understand it but can't speak it, and you can only ask whatever, I ask questions. But this one is quite unique because it's an Icelandic firefighter
Yes.
that can understand Swedish, but can't understand English. We learned. And it's really unique because it's taking the UK task but flipping it on its head because you would want to know so much about the fire department in Iceland, but because you don't understand what's going on, you've got a little bit of issue there, and it makes for funny things because I can't remember which one. I think he must have been close. He kept. I think it was him or it was one of them that kept asking the questions, but then moved on because he didn't understand the answer. Now, do you understand Icelandic?
Not much, no, I must confess. Even if it's a Nordic language, and I'm from the island of Gotland in the middle of the Baltic Sea, and the old Gotlandish is a bit like Icelandic, but it's still really hard. It's easier if I see it written, actually, but when I hear it spoken, I'm out of. I'm losing it.
So did you feel the pain that the contestants were going through?
I don't think so. I was really amused. It was really, really amusing to see them trying to, so Bianca, you mean like this or this or this, and Pia tried to flirt with him and get some information, and Claire says, oh my God, what's happening here? And Kodjo, he just lost it. He was laughing off. That was really, really fun.
And that's just brilliant because when you see Fred the Swede, who's what he's quite famous for. He lives in Sweden now. He moved, so a lot of people are upset that he never appears again. But when you see that in the UK, you see him attempt to do it, and they don't get as frustrated. They work it out. But Kudrow just decided, no, I'm not even gonna attempt to just burst out laughing. And it's so funny because laughter is so contagious. He burst out laughing in the studio. Was it very hard for you not to laugh because laughter is contagious?
I would say it was impossible because his laugh is just out of this world. He's got a lovely laugh.
And I quite like how he attempted to try and see. So he doesn't understand Swedish, but will he understand English? Let's give it a attempt. And I quite like that about this version, that it doesn't just use Swedish. It's because English is a language that's used a lot around the world because a few countries use it natively. But I quite like how this version uses a little bit of English here and there because there's some words in English that aren't in Swedish, which is, from my point of view, really interesting to learn because the more international programs you watch, the more you learn that not every English word is easily translated. So the language itself adapts the word, and I quite like that about this version because you can every so often someone then you just out the blue just hear English.
I think we mix in a lot of English words in our daily language here, so it's close to home for us.
And do when they broadcast the episode, do you notice that that a lot of people understand when people then speak English, understand what's going on because not everyone will understand English. Do you reckon it's still understandable?
I think if they speak too much English, we have to subtitle it. But now it's more like it pops up one sentence here, one sentence there, or something like that. But I don't think we have to subtitle it. No, most people here know common English words, or expressions. They are in use.
And so for this task, the points were Pierre 3, Kudrow 3, Bianca 4, Klaus 1, and then the guest contestant won 3 points. Then we move on to task number 3. Now it's another nightmare task to write notes for, because a lot of it's all visual. And it's a task that is using the UK version in series 1, where the task was to empty the bathtub of all the water. Do not remove the plug or harm the bathtub. Now, in the UK version, it was brilliantly done, but I think that the people in this episode did a better job. I think they did a better job than Tim Key, because Tim Key was one of the standout. It's one of his best tasks, but I reckon they did better here, because I liked how it was. A lot of them used similar items and got different results from it. And did you think it was a really interesting task to see when you're looking at the contestants in the studio, because some of them have reactions whilst watching it? Was it interesting to see their reactions during this task?
Yes, it was, and it's also it's hard to do this task without, you know, losing a bit of dignity, and you will get wet and so on. So it's it was fun to see their faces when they like relive the moment, you know. And also, of course, when they compare how efficient was my method to the others, you know, that's always you know where to look, because you've seen the tasks in advance. And yeah, I remember that. And they worked hard, some of them, really hard.
Yeah. And what's interesting about the format of Taskmaster is that Dave Gorman mentions this in the official Taskmaster podcast, that it's months, it's the studio's months after you've done them, and it's hard to remember them. Is that more interesting to see them remember what they've done because they've seen it? Is that better than doing the task, then watching them, than if you had done the task then and then watch it back? Do you reckon that works better?
Yeah, I think that, because they've slightly forgotten or tried to forget what they did. And then when they see what they did and they compare it to the solutions the other contestants have, you get a lot of funny faces to watch. So I think that they have a bit of trouble, and then they remember, oh yeah, this was the solution. Why did I choose this one? Oh, I should have done like you know. And what I like is that most of the time they give credit to each other, you know. That was a good solution, you know, that you did really well in this one. Forget me, I was bad, you know, but you were really good. So I like that.
Yeah, my dog's sniffing at the door very well. I can just say, which is quite funny. Because he must have, there must have been a word I must have said, and he must have thought the item was in the room, and it's not in the room. Don't worry, go and sniff somewhere else. So and so we go now onto the score, the times and the scores, because I wrote down some of the times. I wrote down the best and the worst times. So we had the best time, which is from the guest contestant, which was 1 minute 52, and the worst time was from Klaus, which was 6 minutes and 45 seconds. So I think that Klaus is a contestant that is always slow at stuff, but he does it slow in a more of a comedic sense rather than being slow on purpose. And I quite liked his reactions after, when you see, because he's like, oh, why have I done that? Yeah, and he is one of my favorites in this episode and in this series, full stop. I think he is brilliant. Did you who was your favorite contestant in this particular task, if you remember?
I remember that Pia had a lot of energy in this task, and that it was really fun to watch. But it's also, as you just said, it's really fun to watch Klaus almost like on purpose Okay, you know, with a little sigh, okay, I'll do this really wet and, you know, uh, unworthy task, but I'll do it in my own way with some dignity
Yeah.
left. And of course, if you try to keep your dignity, you will end up last, won't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Klaus, when he realized I don't stand a chance on this one, then he chose this track instead. You know,
Yeah.
I'll do it with my laziness, you know, on purpose like this. So and in a fun way, always in a fun way.
Yeah. So then we went on to the episode points so far. So where we were up to. So Pia was in third place with 14 points. Kedra was in first place with 18 points. Bianca was in joint second with 15 points, with the guest contestant also having 15 points. And Klaus was in last place with 7 points. Which is as it was, but it was very interesting to see how, so like we've done so many tasks already and you still have these joint places, and it's interesting. Now we move on to task number 4, which was the second to last task, well, the third to last task before we got into the live task of the episode. And this was the first ever team task, which only had 4 in the minute, but had a special task for the guest contestant. And this task was simple but interesting and never before seen, which was to make a bed, hotel standard, whilst holding hands at all times. The task is complete when both of them are on the bed. Now, the guest contestant had to wager who would get the points out of the 2 teams. Now, team 1 was Kedra and Bianca, and team 2 was Pia and Klaus.
Yeah.
Now, did you think this was a fun task to watch, or were you annoyed at it because of the way it's not?
It's not one of my favorites.
Oh.
It was hard to decide. It was not as fun as I hoped when
Yeah.
they did it, and it was hard to judge afterwards what the result and what happened, and it went another direction that I thought. They more like giggled, and you know, they cracked up, and they couldn't,
Yeah.
you know, keep this winning mood. They instead they were lost in laughter, and it turned out more silly than I hoped, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so team 1 ended up winning with 3 points. And I think it's a task that, as you were saying, is hard to judge, because I think if I was watching this and doing your job, which is very hard to do, it would be hard to, because you would have to see it in person. You would have to properly go right up against it. That's why I feel like David had, if David was the taskmaster, if it was a different, if David, I think David should have judged this round on a more of a what he saw in person, because it would have been easier for him to see what all the nooks and crannies, and
the
actually
quality of the undersheets and everything. Yeah,
yeah
it's true. I don't know why we didn't let him, but maybe it was something with his status that he wasn't allowed to do any judgment at this point. And even if he had done it, maybe I have overruled him.
yeah
So I can't remember, actually. It's 5 years ago, so I can't remember the discussion behind it, but it was hard to judge. I can remember that. Yes.
yeah well
To do it fair, you know, when you can't really see the quality of
Yeah.
what they've done.
Well, if I ever get David on the podcast, or get to interview David in a capacity, I will ask him, so that we get to the bottom of this, and then
Yes.
then you remember of what's going on. Hopefully
He
if
might
David,
remember. Yeah, he might remember that.
yeah, hopefully if David is listening or watching, depending on which format you see this, do come on. Do come on, then we can get to the bottom of this, and then we all can rest easy and not have nightmares over it. Yeah, we want to get to the bottom of this as soon as possible.
It out.
Yeah. And so then we moved on to task number 5, which is a good task, but another one that was a nightmare to actually write notes for. So it was task 666, which is a very horror number, because we had to create a horror movie trailer only using dairy products. Now, I've made my own horror trailer for my college work, but not using dairy products. I use myself, like as in I duplicated myself twice, which could be horror in itself. But,
it could be, yeah.
Yeah, but did you think, when you heard them reading the task out, were you thinking, how could dairy products become scary? Or did you have an idea what you would have done?
I'm not sure what I have had done, but I think they were quite creative in making these movies. Some of them were really good, actually, and some of them were really bad. But they were all, made with this lightness of comedy, and that you have some distance to what you're doing. It's not Ingmar Bergman.
Yeah.
So it was fun to watch, and also, once again, fun to watch the others' faces when they were watching what the others have done. So in that perspective, it's not every task can be a 10-pointer, but I think it earned its place in the show.
Yeah, and I quite liked it, because it wasn't that you didn't think you would just, it's hard to say, because it's such a task that technically similar thing happened in series 11 of the UK version, but what this version does well is that it's not afraid to give other people judging. So like David judged Would You Know, and then you got a film critic in, and I really like that, because what it's saying that you wanted to make this even funnier by getting someone that knew what they were talking about to judge something about dairy products. And for me, watching it as someone from the UK, it's interesting to see what the different, because some products are different in different countries. So you wouldn't, it's not everything's, because when I first thought about thinking, oh, it's just gonna be covered in, it's just gonna be cheese and milk, but then you had cream and that. And one of my favorites, because I'm a massive film and TV person. Well, I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't, but it's Close's version of Psycho with using the dairy products, with because he recreated the iconic scene of the woman in the shower.
Yeah,
and I quite like that, because it shows that he's got the knowledge, but he just wants to take it a step further and make it more he wanted to make it more dairy related.
Yeah, he had to, didn't he?
Yeah, had to. So if you remember, because it was 5 years ago, which one was your favorite, if you remember?
I think the Psycho was one of them, but I can't really recall. I can't really remember them all. I'm sorry. It's not in my remembrance anymore. I'm sorry.
I don't think everyone's is be able to remember animate dairy products coming to life, because one of them was Pierre decided to bring the objects alive, and I think the guest contestant, if I'm not mistaken. But if viewers are watching or listening, can comment down below if I get this wrong. But I think he did a sort of like a puppet type thing where he brought the milk bottles alive and made them go on this adventure to be horror related. And I quite liked it. And Close had the greatest thing ever, which was a helmet with bananas on it, duct taped, I think, it's gaffer tape, banana on it, which got put in the prize pool. Did you like that? Because I think that's something that if I had bananas, if I had any common sense, I would recreate at home to wear walking around.
I think that was a brilliant thing to do. I mean, you turn an ordinary helmet into a Viking helmet, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So I thought that was brilliant. I hadn't seen it before, and so I appreciated that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was really inventive and
yes.
And it was a prize worth winning, in my opinion. I would have won that. I would have wanted that really. But if I was one of the production team, I would have sneakily and edited it out. Obviously, sneakily just stole it from the set and then just walked off because it's something unique. And
but it won't last, will it?
No, well, it won't actually. That's the sad thing as well. So you have to get use out of it whilst you can. And so the points for that was Pierre got 4 points, Kedro got 2 points, Bianca got 5 points, Klaus got 3 points, and the special guest sadly only got 1 point. Now, that left with the episode so far, that left Bianca on 23 points, Kedro on 21 points, the special guest on 19 points, Pierre on 18 points, and then Klaus on 10. We went to the live task. Now, the live task had a very complicated name, but I'll simplify it for podcast reasons. It was, you had 5, I think it was like, you had 15, you had like 15 men with beards on it, and you had, and three was randomly selected, and you had to guess them all. Now, this was a good task to test memory, a good task to show if anyone's actually got a good memory. And it was also a very good task because it mixed between easy English names and really complicated names that some of them you would remember. Now, from what you remember, did it seem to be a good task in your opinion?
I think it was fun to watch. Yeah. I think it was a bit clever, and I also think these remembering games are also interesting to see because sometimes it's someone you don't expect to be really good at memory that pops up and take all the points. So, and it's also something funny with men in beards. I don't know why, but I find it funny.
Yeah, and what's interesting is it was, I think it was either a few months ago on Channel 4 in the UK, we aired a program where we got celebrities to do a memory test to see how you remember, because as you were saying, it is interesting to work out how good is someone's memory. So it's in this program, it was different objects and different things, but with this you have to remember all these names, and you might remember some of them, but you don't know which ones Dave is going to randomly select.
No.
And that's what was funny for Klaus. He had some in mind, someone else had been given them, and he couldn't even remember the task after David had finished reading it out. And that is got to be brilliant. That's even better than Mike Wozniak in Series 11 shaving his hair into a Mohican. That's even better than that. And that says something because Mohicans are even funnier than beards. But I when I was watching it, I thought it was really hard to remember names as well, because I gave it an attempt. I couldn't remember anyone's names. And would you have found, if you had done the task, would you have got it right, or would you not have got it wrong? How do you reckon your memory would have held up?
I suck at names. I can't remember names. I can't remember faces, and it's really some sort of handicap for me because I meet so many people, and some of them I really should recognize. I just went to this gala the other day and talked with a woman. I know she's working at SVT. I talked with her for a good 5-6 minutes, and we done general things and other shows. I'm going to host a new show here this autumn, and then she left, and I leaned over to David's brother that was sitting next to me and said, "That was, and then I mentioned a name. No, this was the executive." This was the CEO of the SVT, and I just completely, so but I was not, I was treating her really well.
Yeah.
But and I don't think she was expecting me to do any sucking up, but it was really, really embarrassing. That I recognized the face, but I didn't have a name to it, and I didn't have the position in the company for it. So that was really embarrassing. I'm blushing a bit right now when I think about it, but that's me. I know this is so this task I would have 0 points. I'm pretty sure. Yes.
I know what you mean. It's for me. If someone doesn't tell me the name, I don't know the name, obviously, but it does happen to me sometimes. Someone says their name, and because because what it goes out one in here and goes out the other, and you don't remember, and then you remember the faces. But for me, after you know them for a while, like months and months and months, then you start remembering the names because you're with them a lot of the time, which is what works for me, and I would not of being able to get this task. No, even if the UK version did it, I would still be as lost as I am. I couldn't. If you asked me now to remember any of their names, I don't think I would be able to.
But the memory is a fun thing. I mean, I'm pretty sure that you will recognize all the contestants of the Taskmaster episodes in all the countries you've seen. So that you will remember because this is your one big interest. And of course, I like this woman that I was speaking to, but she's so far up in the in the building, and I don't see her that often. So I sort of just didn't, understand that she was even, taking all this time with me. So I just thought she must be another producer, at the entertainment, and that was too bad. But I'll remember her the next time.
I mean
as well.
that
I also. Oh my God.
And so the final points for the episode, and the winner was crowned in this episode. Not the winner of the series, but the winner of the episode was crowned. So Pierre got 20 points, Kisdra got 23 points, Bianca got 25 points, Klaus got 12 points, and the special guest got 19 points. So Bianca won with 25 points, and she got to take home all the prizes. Prizes include teeth, toenails, ashes of bubble wrap, and a helmet with bananas on it.
I'm sure she was thrilled.
Now, I don't know the answer, but I might be discovering this answer out later on in this week if you stay tuned to Taskmaster World. But did she take home all her winnings, or did she leave some if she didn't want them?
I am pretty sure she left some things, maybe all of them.
Because I don't think
she didn't value the prize that much.
No.
I think she valued the victory more.
Because I don't think she'll want to be driving home in a taxi or driving home herself. Next to her in the seat would be a toenail and teeth. The teeth, I'm pretty sure she brought with her back home, but not the nail. I'm pretty sure she left it.
I
don't even. It's like I like my own. Feel my own fingernails, but touching someone else's is.
You get the chills. It's not pleasant, is it?
No, it's just horrible. But anyway, thank you for letting me interview. Thank you for coming on. Now, you're the second ever person I've had on this podcast as a guest, and the second ever person internationally, because the first guest was the task writer from New Zealand.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I've made it further than New Zealand, and now I do this thing where I steal from the original Taskmaster podcast. So, would you be able to rate your experience on the podcast from 1 to 5? 1 being, oh, it was horrible, and 5 being, oh, it's incredible. And you want more people, more contestants, and everyone from around the world to meet me.
I think this was a strong 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really interesting to be a part of your universe of Taskmaster. You have all this broad, connection of everything that I don't have. I'm in this Swedish bubble and don't watch that much what they do in the other countries. But maybe I should, because it's like you said, it's always different solutions for every different mind. So it's entertaining anyway.
It very much is, and if you do want to see all the other versions, there is places on the internet. So there's something called Reddit, which I mentioned earlier. There's a Taskmaster and a panel show Reddit that upload the episodes weekly, and sometimes they have subtitled involved. And finally, because I just remembered, now the person that I was talking to originally to get hold of you and to make this all happen, who he had previously, the reason why it all happened, because he had previously spoken to you on Instagram to get an update on the new series, and this is how I got in touch with him. He's called John Gray. He studied Swedish in uni and went off to Stockholm for a year, and he's spoken to you on Instagram, and I did say to him I would give him a shout out and let you know that he says hi, because he'll want to know, because he's the one that helped me get to contact you, and he helped me convert it into Swedish just in case you if we just didn't know whether you would understand what I was saying more in the Swedish other thing. And I did the same with David, so hopefully after this David will see this and think she seemed like she had a lot of fun there. Let's I might reply back to him on Twitter in the direct messages.
He's in the middle of doing the new tasks, so he's really, really busy. And I know that he don't have the time to do much extra things outside his work now. So, but maybe you'll hear from him.
Right. Well, anyway, guys, thank you guys for watching this. Now, you're probably wondering, this was the Swedish Taskmaster. I thought you were doing the New Zealand version. Well, if you want to know my thoughts on Series 2, Episode 9 of Taskmaster New Zealand, stay tuned. Now, I don't know when this next video will come out, because it might be Monday, might be Tuesday, because I'm recording it on Sunday at a special time. So stay tuned for that. And thank you guys for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And I'll see you all next time. And remember, like what they do on Strictly, remember, keep tasking. Bye-bye. I don't know
Bye.
Hello everyone, please subscribe to Taskmaster World.